Oceans, vast, unfathomable, alive with mystery. They cover more than 70% of Earth's surface, and yet humanity has explored only a fraction of their depths. They are not just water. They are a living system that regulates the climate, shapes weather, transfers energy, and sustains life in forms we can barely imagine. Every wave, every current, every swirl and microorganism participates in the rhythm that keeps the entire biosphere alive. Beneath the surface, billions of creatures coexist, from microscopic bacteria that produce oxygen and regulate the carbon cycle, to plankton that form vast carpets of life, and to colossal whales and jellyfish that seem born of another world. The ocean is both a laboratory of life and a dynamic, mysterious system where energy, chemistry, and biology intertwine in invisible patterns. Ocean currents transport heat and nutrients, waves sculpt coastlines, and deep hydrothermal vents create extreme habitats where life thrives in temperatures and pressures lethal to almost any other form of existence. Every organism, from bacteria to massive marine mammals, lives in harmony with the unseen rhythm of the sea, adapting to changes in temperature, pressure, salinity, and light in ways that still astonish scientists. At the same time, oceans mirror our civilization, reflecting the fragile balance between humanity and nature. On one hand, they hold boundless riches, food, medicine, energy, and inspiration. On the other, they bear witness to pollution, microplastics, and the escalating consequences of global warming. The ocean is not merely the backdrop of our planet. It is its living heart, pulsing with a rhythm that touches every aspect of our existence. In this journey, we will descend into the depths, uncover the secrets of microscopic life, encounter the giants of the seas, follow the currents that shape our climate, and glimpse places no human has ever seen. The oceans are a world where science meets mystery, and every pulse, every wave, every molecule tells a story of life that has endured for billions of years. Are we ready to hear the rhythm that powers our planet? Let us dive into the invisible world of the oceans, the microbes, plankton, and intricate webs of life that make up the unseen foundation of the seas. Imagine holding a single handful of seawater. It's brimming with life. Microscopic bacteria, viruses, and plankton, billions of organisms, cooperate, compete, and transform matter, forming the base of all marine ecosystems. Their presence is vital to Earth's balance. They generate most of the oxygen we breathe, regulate carbon dioxide, and feed nearly every larger ocean creature. Phytoplankton, invisible to the naked eye, are not just the green lungs of our planet. They are its engines of life. These single-celled organisms use sunlight to create energy through photosynthesis, sustaining the ocean's entire food web. Because of them, fish, whales, seabirds, and ultimately humans can exist. Yet phytoplankton also act as sentinels of climate change. Their abundance, distribution, and species composition shift rapidly in response to warming, salinity changes, and pollution. In many ways, they are the ocean's biological thermometer. Subtle, unseen, but incredibly precise. Beside them thrive the zooplankton, tiny animals that feed on microorganisms, and in turn, become food for larger creatures. Their world follows a brutal rhythm of survival. A flick of a fin or a twitch of an antenna can transfer energy across an entire ecosystem. Some species undertake extraordinary daily migrations, traveling hundreds of meters up and down the water column, hiding from predators by day and surfacing at night to graze on phytoplankton. This vertical movement, known as diel migration, also pumps nutrients through the ocean's layers, acting as a natural engine that sustains life in the deep. Oceanic bacteria, though microscopic, are masters of endurance and transformation. Some thrive in icy waters where chemical reactions slow to near stillness. Others survive crushing pressures in the ocean trenches, where every square centimeter of their bodies endures forces greater than the weight of several cars. Even more astonishing, these bacteria communicate through chemistry, via a process called quorum sensing. They exchange signals to synchronize behavior, coordinate growth, or respond collectively to threats and food availability. Like a living network of microscopic intelligence, equally fascinating is the ocean's viral realm. Marine viruses infect bacteria and plankton, regulating their populations and driving the ocean's nutrient cycles. When viruses destroy microbial cells, they release organic matter that becomes food for other organisms, a biological recycling system that fuels the entire marine web. Some of these viruses can remain dormant for thousands of years in the depths, waiting for the perfect conditions to awaken. In the oceans, every particle of life is part of a vast, self-regulating system, microbes and viruses, working in concert like components of a perfectly tuned machine. The most astonishing truth is that these microscopic beings send ripples that reach across the globe. Phytoplankton generate oxygen, bacteria balance greenhouse gases, viruses maintain equilibrium among marine life. All of this unfolds silently, beneath the waves, in a realm invisible to our eyes. Yet the fate of every living being on Earth depends on it. Oceanic microbes and plankton also hold the key to our future. Research on them is revealing new medicines, sources of renewable energy, and ways to combat pollution. They remind us how delicate Earth's systems truly are, that even the tiniest changes in their numbers can reshape climate, fisheries, and the health of the entire planet. The invisible life of the ocean, then, is not merely a biological curiosity. It is the foundation of existence itself, the pulse that keeps the Earth alive. The oceans harbor creatures so extraordinary that human imagination seems far too limited to grasp them. Blue whales, weighing over 180 tons, move majestically through the waves, their hearts beating in rhythm with the giant pulses of the ocean. They are the largest animals that have ever lived on Earth, yet despite their colossal size, they can dive hundreds of meters deep, remaining there for hours. Their bodies are engineered to survive in an environment that would be instantly lethal to humans. The water pressure at depths of thousands of meters could crush a human body in a second, while the cold, dark ocean waters demand perfect thermoregulation and a metabolism capable of sustaining life during long periods without food. But whales are not the only masters of adaptation. Deep-sea jellyfish, some capable of near immortality, live without a heart, brain, or nervous system in the conventional sense. Their bodies respond to environmental stimuli through networks of cells that transmit electrical and chemical impulses in a distributed manner, allowing them to hunt, evade predators, and synchronize the pulsating movements of water to their needs. Some species of jellyfish migrate thousands of kilometers, following the rhythm of ocean currents, using natural eddies and circulations as transportation, almost like ships traveling along invisible highways in the water. Octopuses and squids introduce us to a world of intelligence that seems to defy the logic of evolution. An octopus can change not only its color, but also the texture of its skin in a fraction of a second, thanks to specialized chromatophore and muscle cells. Its brain is composed of a central nervous system and distributed neurons in its arms, allowing it to manipulate objects, solve problems, and hunt simultaneously, almost as if each arm had its own consciousness. The giant squid, one of the largest invertebrates, can reach 13 meters in length, with eyes the size of basketballs, the largest in the animal kingdom, enabling it to see in the depths where sunlight never penetrates. Equally fascinating are the survival strategies of deep-sea fish. Some species can enter a state of near-complete metabolic hibernation, slowing life processes almost to zero to survive periods of food scarcity. Other fish produce their own light. Bioluminescence allows them to attract prey, repel predators, and communicate in total darkness. Some deep-sea species have upturned eyes that scan their entire body for approaching predators, while their flexible bodies withstand the immense pressure that rises exponentially in the depths. We must also remember the gigantic crustaceans, such as spider crabs and deep-sea shrimp. Their extraordinary anatomy allows them to survive in near-freezing temperatures and in darkness, where every interaction with the environment is a challenge. Some species of marine reptiles and fish can regulate the salt levels in their bodies to endure extreme salinity, while others form symbiotic relationships with bacteria that allow them to digest toxic chemical compounds in the water. Every ocean giant is part of a larger web of life, the hunting of one group of predators, Plankton migration, ocean current circulation, and gas exchange by microscopic phytoplankton all directly influence the survival of these creatures. It is a complex network of interdependencies, where the largest and smallest organisms are connected by invisible threads of chemistry, biology, and physics. Nothing in the ocean happens in isolation. Every wave, every temperature shift, every plankton bloom can shift the balance of the entire ecosystem, and the massive creatures are living proof of this. Moreover, scientists are still discovering new species of giants whose existence no one suspected. Deep-sea jellyfish, transparent-bodied fish, colossal squids and cephalopods, as well as enormous corals and sponges forming forests on the ocean floor, show that life has found ways to survive in the most extreme conditions. Each of these creatures tells a story of adaptation, strategy, extraordinary sensory abilities, and biological resilience. The world of ocean giants teaches us that life in extremes does not mean simplicity. On the contrary, it is a sophisticated, subtly synchronized network of strategies, adaptations and interconnections. Whales, jellyfish, octopuses, deep-sea fish, each functions in harmony with the rhythm of the ocean, its currents, light, and nutrients. Their story shows us that the ocean is not a dead backdrop to our planet, but a dynamic, pulsating world where giants and microscopic creatures coexist in harmony, forming the foundation of life on Earth. Long before humans appeared, before the first forests and mountains, the oceans teemed with life in forms that today seem fantastical. For hundreds of millions of years, evolution experimented with shape, size, and survival strategies, creating creatures as terrifying as they were mesmerizing. The prehistoric ocean was a massive laboratory of life, filled with creatures that cannot be seen anywhere else on Earth today. One of the most iconic inhabitants of ancient seas were plesiosaurs, long-necked predators with necks so flexible they could reach prey several meters away, while their bodies moved with grace through the water. Though they resembled dragons, they were entirely real and perfectly adapted to life in prehistoric oceans. Their jaws were full of sharp teeth, and their hydrodynamic bodies enabled rapid attacks and evasion of larger predators. We must also remember ichthyosaurs, called fish lizards, which looked like a cross between a dolphin and a crocodile. They could reach lengths of several dozen meters, and their enormous eyes were adapted for seeing in the dark depths of the ocean. Their hearts and circulatory systems were extremely efficient, allowing them to undertake long, energetically demanding migrations in search of food. Another group of prehistoric giants were ammonites, marine cephalopods related to modern squids and octopuses, but with spiral shells. Ammonites could reach dozens of centimeters in diameter and were a key part of the food chain. Their shells protected their bodies from predators, while enabling them to control buoyancy, allowing vertical movement within the water column. Fascinatingly, their shells have survived as fossils, which millions of years later scientists use to study past oceanic conditions and climate changes. Equally captivating is the world of prehistoric fish and invertebrates, which experimented with form and survival strategy. The megalodon shark, a gigantic predator, reached over 18 meters in length, with teeth the size of a human hand. Its jaws could crush nearly anything within reach, while its body allowed rapid acceleration when chasing prey. Meanwhile, some prehistoric crustaceans and marine sponges formed colonies and structures similar to modern reefs, stabilizing ecosystems and providing shelter for smaller species. Oceans millions of years ago were also the birthplace of defensive strategies that persist to this day. Colorful patterns, camouflage, toxin production, and elongated jaws for grasping prey all evolved over hundreds of millions of years, as each creature had to fight for survival in a world full of predators and fierce competition. Some species survived in altered forms, while others went extinct, leaving only fossils that today fascinate scientists and inspire imagination. Most fascinating of all, studies of prehistoric oceans show that gigantism and extreme adaptations were responses not only to biological competition, but also to environmental changes, oxygen levels, water temperature, and ocean chemistry. It reminds us that the ocean has always responded to every impulse, both biological and geological. Every giant, every jellyfish from millions of years ago. Every fish and crustacean was part of a pulsating web of life, where survival depended on dexterity, quick reactions, and the ability to adapt. Prehistoric oceans teach us humility. They show that life in water has never been static, and that gigantism, intelligence, and innovative survival strategies arose in response to the environment and biological competition. Their history remains not only a scientific curiosity, but also an inspiration for modern research, biomimetic technology, and understanding the ecosystems of today's oceans. It is a world where gigantism meets biological precision, and every organism, from microscopic plankton to the colossal megalodon, is a testament to life's endurance in extreme conditions. The oceans are never still. Even a seemingly calm surface conceals enormous streams of water moving billions of tons every day. These ocean currents, from invisible eddies to massive global circulations, are the arteries of life on the planet. They transport heat from the tropics to the poles, regulate air temperatures, support animal migrations, and distribute nutrients that sustain life both in surface waters and in the deep ocean. Without them, Earth's ecosystems and climate would look entirely different. Some regions would be scorched deserts, while others frozen under ice. The most famous current is the Gulf Stream, which, like a giant river beneath the waves, carries warm water from the Caribbean to northern Europe, stabilizing the continent's climate. Because of it, winters in Western Europe are milder than they would be at the same latitude in North America. But oceanic life circulation is not only about heat, it's also about nutrients. Surface currents mix waters rich in plankton and microorganisms with the depths, creating true highways of life, along which fish, whales, seabirds, and entire ecosystems migrate. In the deep ocean, deep currents, also called thermohaline currents, operate due to differences in water temperature and salinity. These drive a slow but powerful circulation that can last hundreds of years. Water that sinks in the Arctic today may reach the coasts of Africa a century from now. Within this slow, immense dance of the ocean, the story of all life unfolds. Microbes in the depths process organic compounds, and their metabolism influences greenhouse gas emissions, such as carbon dioxide and methane, weaving the ocean into the global chemical and climate cycles. Ocean currents also serve as migration routes for the giants of the seas. Humpback whales travel thousands of kilometers, following seasonal currents that transport plankton and fish, their main food source. Sea turtles use oceanic eddies to move between nesting sites and feeding grounds, conserving energy along natural water highways. This shows that currents are not just physical water movement, they are maps of life, which science is only beginning to understand. Some of the most extreme oceanic phenomena arise precisely because of these flows. Internal waves, forming below the surface, can reach tens of meters high and travel hundreds of kilometers, affecting nutrient transport in the depths. Deep-sea vortices, created when currents of different densities meet, can lift tiny organisms and plankton to the surface, allowing reproduction and participation in the ocean's life cycle. In this way, ocean physics becomes a direct narrator of biology. Microorganisms, fish, and marine mammals respond to water movement, their lives intertwining with currents in a complex, beautifully synchronized dance. Ocean currents also have a tremendous impact on climate. The El Niño phenomenon, originating in the Pacific, disrupts thermohaline circulation, causing sudden changes in water temperature, rainfall, and winds. Its effects are felt worldwide, from hurricanes in North America to droughts in Africa and Australia. Though invisible to the naked eye, ocean currents are in fact a giant nervous system of the planet, responding to every change from melting glaciers to greenhouse gas emissions, transmitting this information through waves, eddies, and water flows. We must not forget that currents transport heat and nutrients in ways that allow life to survive in extreme places. Near hydrothermal vents, where water exceeds 400 less, currents exchange minerals and chemicals, enabling chemosynthetic microorganisms to survive in an environment where most life forms would perish. This shows that the ocean is not merely a space but a system supporting life at every level, from microbes to gigantic marine mammals. In this way, Oceanic life circulation is not just the movement of water. It is a vast network of connections between physics, chemistry, and biology, where every impulse, every wave, and every eddy matters. Ocean currents show us that life on Earth is not random, that microbes, plankton, fish, and whales operate in a single rhythm, synchronized with the planet's pulsing heart. Understanding these water movements gives us not only scientific knowledge, but also a perspective on how fragile yet brilliantly organized life on our planet truly is. The ocean is home to places that seem utterly inhospitable to humans. Pressure in the depths increases by 1 atmosphere for every 10 meters of water. So at 10 kilometers down, in the Mariana Trench, the body experiences pressure greater than the weight of 1,000 elephants pressing on a single person. Temperatures hover around 0 degrees Celsius, no light penetrates, and food is scarce. Yet life thrives in ways that seem miraculous. From microscopic bacteria to bizarre fish with transparent bodies and enormous eyes, capturing every ray of light in the abyss. The most famous extreme environments are hydrothermal vents, sites where water emerges from the Earth's interior at temperatures exceeding 400 degrees, rich in metals and minerals. In this toxic environment, microorganisms survive using chemosynthesis instead of photosynthesis. These bacteria process hydrogen sulfide and other chemical compounds, forming the base of entire ecosystems. Around the vents, crabs, shrimp, mollusks, and giant worms gather, either feeding on bacteria or forming symbiotic partnerships with them. This shows that life can exploit every possible energy source, even that which arises in extreme environments devoid of light. Another extreme is the deep, lightless zones, the Hadal regions of the ocean, where total darkness reigns and water temperatures range from 1 to 4 degrees. Fish from these depths have enormous eyes or specialized light receptors that detect minimal bioluminescent signals, and some species of fish and cephalopods produce their own light to attract prey or deter predators. Some fish have elongated jaws and sensory appendages that allow them to feel water movement and locate prey in complete darkness. In these extreme conditions, giant invertebrates have also evolved, such as deep-sea sponges and crustaceans that form structures resembling underwater forests, providing shelter for smaller organisms. Some of these creatures live for hundreds or even thousands of years, and their metabolism is so slow that life in the deep ocean becomes a matter of patience and precise biological balance. Chemical adaptations cannot be overlooked either. Many deep-sea organisms produce specialized proteins and enzymes resistant to pressure and low temperatures, while some fish have unique fat structures in their bodies that act as natural shock absorbers, protecting cells from crushing pressure. Even the nervous system must adapt. Nerve impulses travel differently under extreme pressure, so evolution has modified their structure to allow effective responses to stimuli. What is most astonishing, however, is that life in these extremes is not isolated. Hydrothermal vents and Hadal zones interact with global ocean circulation. Currents transport nutrients, energy, and microorganisms between the depths and the surface. Every microbe, jellyfish, and fish in these extreme zones becomes part of a pulsating, dynamic system that connects the deep with the surface, the tropics with the poles, and where life has survived for millions of years, adapting to the very limits of physics and chemistry. Extreme ocean environments teach us humility and inspire science. It is here that enzymes enabling biotechnological advances have been discovered. Drugs have been derived from organisms adapted to toxic conditions, and even inspirations for pressure and cold-resistant materials have emerged. These places demonstrate that life can thrive where it seems impossible, and every organism, from microbes to enormous cephalopods, is evidence of evolution's extraordinary creativity. Although the oceans have survived millions of years of evolution and natural catastrophes, in the 21st century they face threats caused by human activity. Climate change is raising water temperatures, acidifying oceans, and altering currents, directly affecting marine organisms from microbes to giant whales. Phytoplankton is highly sensitive to temperature changes, and its decline would reduce oxygen production and destabilize entire ecosystems. Meanwhile, Melting glaciers in the Arctic and Antarctic introduce fresh water into the oceans, altering salinity and disrupting global thermohaline circulation, disturbing the life rhythm of millions of species. Yet the most tangible and immediate problem is pollution, including microplastics and floating garbage patches. The most famous of these is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a massive area of floating debris stretching hundreds of thousands of square kilometers. The water may appear calm from afar, but beneath the surface millions of tons of plastic drift, destroying natural habitats. Fish, turtles, and seabirds mistake plastic fragments for food, and toxins from plastics enter the food chain, including the fish we eat. Some animals become entangled in nets and debris, leading to injury or death, while microscopic plastic particles are ingested by plankton, meaning the problem affects the entire ocean, from surface to abyss. The oceans also face overexploitation of resources, particularly fish and crustaceans. Intensive fishing has reduced populations, and many species, such as tuna, sharks, and cod, are now threatened with extinction. This, in turn, impacts the entire food chain. Predators lose prey, and plankton and microorganisms respond with shifts in abundance and species composition. It's like a domino effect. One change at one level of the ecosystem creates cascading reactions throughout the ocean. Another threat is ocean acidification, caused by increased carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere. Water absorbs CO2 and forms carbonic acid, lowering ocean pH. For corals, shelled crustaceans, and calcareous plankton, this is almost lethal. Their skeletons and shells dissolve. Acidification also affects fish behavior, disrupting orientation and predator avoidance. Some experiments show that fish in more acidic water lose the ability to recognize threats and respond to chemical cues. Local ecological disasters cannot be ignored either, such as oil spills or toxic chemicals from factories. After the Deepwater Horizon catastrophe in 2010 in the Gulf of Mexico, ocean life plummeted. Fish, crabs, and seabirds died, and microorganisms had to adapt to massive doses of hydrocarbons. These events demonstrate that while the ocean is powerful, it has its limits, and human activity can shake the foundation of life in the water. Interestingly, not all human impacts are immediately visible. Microorganisms in the oceans react to chemical pollution, heavy metals, and toxins, sometimes mutating and evolving to survive, but in the process disrupting the natural balance of ecosystems. This is an invisible struggle, unfolding beneath the surface, whose effects we feel only years later when changes affect fish, plankton, and eventually humans. Modern oceans reveal the paradox of our civilization. They are places of life, beauty, and immense mystery, yet they also reflect our actions, from plastic traces to climate change and toxins in the water. This is a reminder that every impulse, every human decision, has consequences in the global ecosystem. And although the threats are real, oceans continue to demonstrate an extraordinary capacity for adaptation. Microorganisms adjust to new conditions. Animals change migration routes, and biological systems still strive to maintain balance. Understanding these threats is not just about ocean science. It is a lesson for all of us. From floating garbage patches, spanning thousands of kilometers, to subtle chemical changes in the deep. Every part of the ocean tells a story in which humans and nature are inseparably connected. This means that protecting the ocean is not a luxury but a necessity if we want the pulse of life, both in water and on land, to continue in harmony. The oceans are changing faster than ever in Earth's history, and life within them has learned to adapt in ways that often seem almost magical to humans. Let's start with the giants, whales and sharks, which, thanks to their size, intelligence, and migratory abilities, can respond to seasonal shifts in temperature, food availability, and changes in ocean currents. Some whale species travel thousands of kilometers in search of plankton and fish, precisely following natural ocean highways that shift depending on global weather patterns. This is no accident. Their senses, including hearing and the ability to detect changes in Earth's magnetic field, allow them extraordinary spatial orientation, beyond human comprehension. In the deep ocean, where pressure is immense and light cannot penetrate, adaptations take even more fantastical forms. Deep-sea fish have evolved enormous eyes or entirely transparent bodies to capture even the faintest light sources. Some creatures, such as the Turritopsis doherni jellyfish, can practically reverse aging. Its cells can revert to the polyp stage, making it biologically immortal. This adaptation provides a survival advantage in extreme conditions, where reproduction rates and food availability are limited. Other deep-sea organisms use bioluminescence, generating their own light to lure prey, deter predators, or communicate with partners. Some fish have lights at the end of elongated jaws that act as lures. When other organisms approach, the fish draws them into its mouth. This survival strategy doubles as both a hunting tactic and a demonstration of evolutionary creativity. It's not only giants and deep-sea oddities that adapt to change. Microorganisms and plankton respond almost instantly to rising temperatures and acidification. Some species produce new enzymes, while others alter their life cycles to take advantage of short periods of favorable conditions. Scientists have discovered bacteria that accelerate their metabolism as water worms and produce substances that protect them from toxins such as heavy metals or plastic pollution. This shows that even the smallest organisms play a crucial role in maintaining oceanic balance. Symbiosis and interspecies partnerships are also fascinating. In the oceans, fish cooperate with shrimp, and bacteria living within cephalopods help them survive in nutrient-poor conditions. Even seemingly insignificant plankton forms colonies that protect it from predators and optimize energy use from sunlight. In the ocean, where every unit of energy is precious, cooperation can be as important as predation. Climate change and pollution force new strategies. Fish shift spawning zones to cooler regions, whales alter migration routes, and crustaceans accelerate shell growth to cope with acidifying waters. Some species use floating garbage patches as shelter or breeding grounds. Paradoxically, waste becomes part of a new ecosystem, yet this balance is fragile. Life adapts, but not always fast enough to keep up with the pace of change, potentially leading to extinctions and disruptions in the food chain. Ultimately, oceanic adaptations demonstrate an extraordinary diversity of survival strategies. From massive predators to microscopic microbes, from biologically immortal animals to fish that produce their own light. Each adaptation proves that life can find solutions even in the harshest conditions, while also reminding us that human-driven environmental changes are testing resilience at the edge of possibility. The oceans are Earth's largest heat reservoir and play a critical role in regulating climate. Water absorbs about 90% of the excess energy generated by the greenhouse effect, acting like a gigantic battery that slows atmospheric warming, while itself undergoing dramatic changes. As ocean temperatures rise, water density shifts, affecting thermohaline currents, massive underwater rivers that transport heat, nutrients, and microorganisms across thousands of kilometers. Any disruption to this system caused by global warming can have consequences worldwide, from extreme weather events to changes in the migration of marine species. Rising surface water temperatures are causing coral reef die-offs, which are the most diverse ecosystems on Earth. Corals, sensitive to temperature increases of just 1 to 2 degrees Celsius, lose the symbiotic algae that provide them with energy via photosynthesis, leading to coral bleaching. This, in turn, destabilizes the life of fish, crustaceans, and invertebrates that rely on reefs for shelter and food. Oceans are also becoming more acidic. Increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere dissolves in water, forming carbonic acid and lowering ocean pH. Acidification impacts the ability of organisms to build skeletons and shells, directly affecting plankton, crustaceans, mollusks, corals, and many fish species. Even fish in more acidic waters lose the ability to orient themselves and detect threats. Their brains respond differently, disrupting predator-prey behaviors. Climate change also leads to glacial melting and rising sea levels, which affect saltwater density and ocean currents. In regions like the Arctic and Antarctic, fresh water from melting ice disrupts water density and alters ocean circulation. This, in turn, impacts animal migrations, from whales to pelagic fish that rely on natural highways created by currents. temperature changes also affect microbes and plankton. Warmer waters favor different species, altering the structure of the food chain. This can lead to blooms of toxic algae, threatening fish, marine mammals, seabirds, and even humans, contaminating water and air and causing so-called red tide events. We must also consider floating garbage patches, which, combined with climate change, are becoming an increasingly severe problem. Plastic not only floats on the surface, forming vast patches such as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, but also interacts with microorganisms and chemicals in the water. In warmer temperatures, these interactions release toxins more rapidly, affecting entire ecosystems. Fish and seabirds mistake plastic fragments for food, and microscopic particles even reach plankton, creating a snowball effect through the food chain. The ocean also responds to the greenhouse effect in subtle but enormous ways. Changes in temperature and water chemistry influence reproduction, migration, and species development. Some fish shift spawning locations, whales modify migration to follow food, and microorganisms evolve tolerance to higher temperatures and toxins. This demonstrates that the ocean is a living system, responding to every change. Fragile in the face of humans, yet capable of remarkable adaptation. In short, the greenhouse effect is not an abstract concept. Its consequences are felt across every layer of ocean life. From microbes to giant marine mammals, from coral reefs to plankton, the ocean responds, adapts, sometimes fights, and sometimes yields. Every wave, every current, and every chemical shift in the water is proof that life in the ocean is sensitive, interconnected, and incredibly complex. The oceans, while a source of life and inspiration, can also be places of relentless power, where even the smallest mistake can cost lives. One of the most dramatic threats is tsunamis, massive waves triggered by underwater earthquakes, landslides, or volcanic eruptions. History records events that reshaped entire regions. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami claimed over 230,000 lives, destroying cities, villages, and infrastructure. A tsunami can travel hundreds of kilometers per hour, and its destructive power comes not only from its height, but from the immense energy of water striking the coast, comparable to the explosion of hundreds of atomic bombs. Equally dangerous are hurricanes, cyclones, and typhoons born over warm ocean waters. These powerful storm systems transport heat energy stored in the water and can strike coasts with winds exceeding 300 km/h. Water, sand, and fallen trees destroy buildings, roads, and infrastructure, while turbulent ocean currents can sweep people and vessels into the depths. They also affect global climate. Hurricanes can alter weather hundreds of kilometers inland, causing floods and droughts. The oceans also harbor dangerous organisms that can be lethal to humans. Jellyfish, deceptively delicate in appearance, can paralyze or kill with their venom. Some deep-sea fish, such as the stonefish, have spines filled with venom capable of causing extreme pain or death. Bacteria and viruses in ocean waters, particularly in polluted areas, can cause human diseases, ranging from skin infections to serious gastrointestinal illnesses. Violent currents and whirlpools are another hidden hazard, oceanic phenomena that pull humans, boats, and rafts into dangerous zones. Rip currents near the shore account for hundreds of drownings every year. Their strength is enormous, yet often invisible. The water's surface may appear calm, but underneath, the current drags everything into the depths. Oceans also pose chemical and biological risks. In areas contaminated with industrial toxins, heavy metals, or microplastics, the water itself can threaten health. Consuming fish and seafood from these regions carries the risk of accumulating harmful substances in the body. Additionally, some natural events like toxic algal blooms release neurotoxins that can cause mass fish die-offs and poison humans who consume contaminated water or seafood. Another dark aspect of the ocean is rising sea levels, a consequence of climate change and the greenhouse effect. Coastal flooding is becoming more frequent and destructive. Islands and coastal cities vanish beneath the water, forcing millions to migrate and lose livelihoods. The ocean thus becomes both a source of life and a force compelling dramatic changes in human societies. It is also worth noting the unexpected forces of the ocean, which can surprise even experienced sailors and researchers. Underwater volcanic eruptions, submarine avalanches, or sudden open sea weather shifts can turn a calm voyage into a life or death struggle within minutes. History records cases of ships and research vessels drawn into whirlpools or covered by lava from underwater eruptions. Nature does not forgive mistakes. The oceans, though fascinating and full of life, also have a dark side, destructive, unpredictable, and dangerous. Tsunamis, hurricanes, whirlpools, toxic organisms, pollution, and climate change show that human interaction with the ocean requires humility, knowledge, and respect. Water that gives life can at any moment become a destructive force. Understanding this paradox is essential if we wish to coexist with this vast, mysterious world. Imagine a world without oceans. At first glance, it might seem simply a place without beaches and waves, but the consequences would be catastrophic. Oceans function as a giant planetary battery, regulating temperature, absorbing carbon dioxide, and producing oxygen through plankton and photosynthesis. Without them, the climate would become extreme. Tropics scorched by the sun, poles harsh and unstable. Ocean currents that transport heat and nutrients would cease to exist, and most life that relies on these natural highways would have no way to survive. The atmosphere would suffer dramatically as well. About half of the oxygen produced on Earth comes from photosynthetic plankton. Without oceans, the air would become less breathable for humans, animals, and most plants. Additionally, oceans are the primary carbon sink. Without them, atmospheric CO2 levels would rise sharply, accelerating global warming to a point where life on land would be extremely difficult or impossible. Although humans can survive in extreme conditions, we cannot function in isolation from the oceans, not only for food and water, but also for climate and biological cycles. Everything in our world is connected to ocean water. Even atmospheric currents, storms, hurricanes, and monsoon rains depend on the energy absorbed by seawater. In short, life without oceans would be nearly impossible as we know it. Earth would become a planet of extremes, desert-like and hostile to most species. Could the oceans ever dry up completely? From a geological perspective, Earth has experienced periods when significant parts of oceans disappeared or dried up, such as the large marine basins in the Mesozoic era. However, total desiccation would require catastrophic changes. The loss of a significant portion of water due to geothermal processes, escape into outer space, or drastic alterations in the water cycle. Such a scenario is practically impossible in the next billions of years. That does not mean the oceans are safe. Rising temperatures, acidification, and pollution are already causing dramatic ecosystem changes that could severely limit marine life. The most important lesson is that oceans are not merely reservoirs of water. They are central to the entire system of life on Earth. They protect the climate, support biodiversity, produce oxygen, and provide food for billions. Their survival and biological health are essential for human civilization. Without oceans, life as we know it could not exist, and climate and ecological disasters would become inevitable. Oceans are thus both a source of life and a reminder of our responsibility. By protecting them, we protect ourselves. While they are not in danger of completely drying up, human-driven degradation can just as effectively transform Earth into a place where life becomes far more difficult, and the oceanic wonders we take for granted today may no longer sustain us.